you. No. Is it recording? 1 minute. There we go. All right, yesterday we began the last discourse, the last, what's called a ma'amar, the last essay in this week's Torah chapter.
Great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing.
In the book of, in the chapter which is called the Chayei Sorah. Okay, so Chayei Sorah. So we talked about this yesterday, we began yesterday, but we'll go over it quickly, what we said. That it says that this week's Torah portion is talking about Yitzchak, the son of Abraham, getting married, and how Abraham's servant Eliezer went out, left Israel to find a wife, and he came back with Rivka. And he said when he came back with Rivka, they saw Yitzchak, that he had gone out to speak in the field. And it explained that he went out to pray. And from there, he established the prayer of Mincha, the afternoon prayer in Judaism. Religious Jews pray 3 times a day. And that corresponds to the 2 daily sacrifices and the taking out of the ashes of the sacrifices in the Holy Temple. And it also corresponds to the 3 forefathers of Israel, of the Jewish people. Abraham established the morning prayer. Isaac, Yitzchak, established the afternoon prayer, and Yaakov established the evening prayer. Good. So the afternoon prayer. It says, where did he go to pray? He went out into the field. So what's he going into the field for? The field is outside of the city. So it is because it's written in the Torah, and the Torah is not just a history book, and it certainly is not a book that was made up by somebody. And it was not a book that was written years afterwards, somebody remembered something they saw, a compilation of memories and notes that were taken by the pupils hundreds of years later. The Torah was written by God, and it was given by God to the Jewish people. The first book of the Torah was given, sometimes it's called Sefer Yashar. Rashi says it was given right before at Mara, that he gave him some Choku Mishpat, some they saw. It says they gave also the book of Genesis was also given to the Jewish people. That was before Mount Sinai. But anyway, the whole Torah was given in Mount Sinai. The whole thing is written by God. And every word is written by God, and every letter is written by God, and certainly every paragraph, every detail. If there's one letter missing from your Sefer Torah, from the Torah scroll in the synagogue, even if it's one of the names of the non-Jewish concubines of Esav or something like that, one letter is missing, then you can't read from the whole Torah. So every single letter is very important. So this, obviously, if every letter is so important and essential, then obviously every word, and certainly much more so every idea. So here we have Yitzchak, Isaac, the founder of the Jewish people. The Torah is telling us certainly every detail that in his life is very, very important to us, not just as a memory or because of the preciousness of Judaism and how important Judaism, but in our day-to-day life, and not only for the Jews, for every human being in the world. So what's it coming and telling us over here? That he went out into the field. So it says the field is outside of the city. It's known that there's what's called a Mishnah and a Braita. Now the Mishnah, that's the oral explanation of the Torah, which was given by very great people. The Braita is basically also the same thing, but the Braita, that was not included in the Mishnah. There was a great person called Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. He was the last generation of the Tanaim, or as they're disparagingly and incorrectly called by the non-Jews, especially by the church. They're called the Pharisees or whatever, this sort of evil name. These people, they had the power to raise the dead, like I said. And in fact, the one who compiled the Mishnah, it tells in the Torah and in Avodah Zarah that he did raise the dead. It shows how he raised the dead. Anyway, it's a long story. But he raised the dead, and it said that all of you, the least of them, he was in a way the least, because he was in the last generation, had the power to raise the dead. Okay. So they wrote the Mishnah, and these people also write the Braita, but the Braitas were not included in the Mishnah. They were afterwards. And this set the stage for all the explanation of the Mishnah. So the Mishnahs are explanations of what it says in the Torah, the written word, what it says in the Torah, which cannot possibly be understood properly unless you have a big discussion about it between people that know the whole Torah and are very sincere about explaining the Torah properly. And that was called the Mishnah. The Mishnah was written down by the discussions. It was a compilation of these discussions of the men that of these people called the Tanaim, and they also had further discussions, and that was called the Breita. The Breita, that's more elucidating this, and eventually that gave way to the Talmud. That was the Amoraim, and they explain more. So Breita is an explanation of the Mishnah. All these commentaries afterwards is sort of like an explanation of the Mishnah, because the Mishnah is the general statement explaining the Torah, and the Breita is more detailed. The Ein B'chalal Ala Mashiach B'prat, and every detail that's in the Mishnah is somehow or other is explained in the Breita. So every detail that's in this Breita, the details, you can some way trace it back to its source. Something like a tree, let's say a big apple tree. So somehow or other you can trace every apple back to the seed, let's say. Anyway, L'chiora, the Breita is below the Mishnah. Why? Because it came lower, below. There's more explanations. But the truth is that the Breita is really higher. Why? Because it comes down lower. These explanations of the Torah that are more detailed, right? This aspect of the oral Torah, which is more detailed, you might think that it's less holy, because it's like less mysterious and it's more, down to earth. So that's less holy. But the fact of the matter is it's higher. And this is a very basic thing in Judaism, because, you might think that Judaism is just this bunch of like laws and details, and that they forgot the spirit. The spirit is gone, right? The spirit is gone. And that all we have is these little details, and you have the tefillin have to be exactly like this. And if there's, like I said, if there's one letter missing from the Torah scroll, it's no good. Come on, God is infinite and God is spiritual. And that's the main thing of Judaism, right? So it says, yeah, that's what you might think, and there's a place for that thought, definitely is, but it's wrong. It's a wrong thought. The way our minds work is not necessarily the way they're supposed to work. So our minds work and think, what's more spiritual is closer to God. And what's more physical is further from God. But the fact of the matter, it's not so. In Judaism, of course, there's a tremendous emphasis on the spiritual, like we said before, that love and fear and being aware of God and the spiritual aspects of your soul when they're awakened. So that's like wings that lift up and make genuine all of the Torah that you do. But the main thing is to do. The main thing is the deed. So the lower it comes closer to deed, the higher it is in the essence of God. Because what's the point? God created this world not so that we should get out of the world, that we should realize the falseness of this world. We're saying that God is creating the world purposely because this world has a tremendously high message and source. That's what it says. Sof Masa, the last deeds, the lower deeds, they rose up in God's thought first. So when God created the world, Yan created the world 5,783 years ago plus. So what was really in God's mind right there? Me and you sitting right here now, right? Learning this Torah, or some, Aborigine or some, who knows what, the savage in the middle of the desert, or the looking for ants to eat or something. That's what God had in his mind. And some squirrel finding a nut, or an amoeba eating a protozoa. Who knows what a protozoas eat? Amoebas, I don't know what's small. That was in God's mind. The lower the thing, the higher in it is. The only course the difference is that an amoeba looking for food, or a squirrel looking for people, whatever is looking at this, that's not according to the Torah. That's just part of nature. And the Torah goes above nature. The idea is the Torah is supposed to change nature. That's the whole idea of the Torah. So the lower that the Torah comes down and deals with details, the more details in nature that the Torah deals with, as the higher it is in God's mind, because that's what God wanted. The Torah came down below, it came down not just into physical things, but it came down even into lies. Where did the ability to lie come from? From God. Everything comes from God. God does not want us to lie, but on the other hand, God does want us to have the potential to lie. God wants us to have free will. So how do you say, the road is open. And if you lie, you can get away with it. Not always, but you can get away with it. Right? And that's how that's what politicians are made out of. They can say a lie with the most words. So we see that, how do you say, honesty is the best policy sometimes. And the Torah comes down to refine and to correct lies. Like it says, I said yesterday, like in the Gemara in Baba Metzia, two people come into court and they're holding on to this garment, and each one says, it's mine. I claim it. Right? I paid for it. I grabbed it on. The other one says, what are you talking about? I paid for it and I grabbed it on. And then the law is, whoever is grabbing on more, that what he's grabbing onto, it's his possession, but what's in the middle, they have to divide, and they have to have witnesses. Well, the Nira, according to this, you read a Lamata Mod, this is very, very low. What is God talking about? Who steals a garment and who lies about a garment? Okay, let's talk about it a little bit, but all these little minute details about who is a proper witness and what how they have to witness and what they have to say, and then the witnesses are questioned and they're cross-examined and this, right? And how to examine them and what to ask questions about. That's what the Holy Torah deals with, right? Just leave it to the rabbis, leave it to somebody else to let them make up their own laws. That's what everybody does anyway, right? They make all the countries in the world, they make up their own laws, right? They make up their own laws. Here, the Torah deals with all these little details. Where do the details come from? The explanation of the Torah, the Mishnah, and even more in what's called the Breita. Nevertheless, even though it comes down so low, it is nevertheless very high. Kisof Maisa, because the end deed, that's what arose in God's mind first. Like we said yesterday, like a tube that's closed up on one side. If you put in two marbles in the tube, first of all, you put marble number one, and then you put in marble number two. Then when you let these, so they're caught in the tube, right? When you let the marbles out, so the the last one to come out is the first one that you put in. Number one was the first one you put in. Well, when you turn that tube down and they come out, so number one is going to be the last one to come out. So it comes out that the highest, a Rishon, a Nichnas Rishon, the one that goes in first, that comes out last. Well, Adam, just like a person, Sof Kolan Ibrahim, man was made at the end of all the creation, right? Looking over there in the story of creation in the book of Genesis. So it says, God, first of all, he created the heavens and the earth and the skies and this, and then he created the fish and the whatever it is, the birds and the fish, and then he created the animals, and the last thing that he created was man. And he is higher than all of them. Which that's maybe the way the theory of evolution came, but the theory of evolution in a way is the opposite. The theory of evolution says that things are constantly elevating, getting higher and higher. First of all, God created the fish, and then he created from the fish that came the animals, and then came man, which is more developed. Here he's saying that no, that man was the last thing to be created. In a way, he was the lowest. He came down after the earth was created and the dirt was created and everything. Man was put here, the last thing that God created. It shows, but even though he was the last, but he was the first in God's thought. Hakol nivra ba'avuro. But everything was created for his sake. And therefore, Nimsa Olam, the whole world was found in man. Man is a microcosm. The whole world was found in one man. The horos to indicate Hakol nivra ba'avuro. Everything was created for him. Because that's the whole essence of man, is to fix up, to correct, to improve, to bring blessing to the entire world. That's what the rabbis say, it's better one moment of returning to God and doing good deeds in this world than all of the heavenly worlds. That's what we learned that. We've been learning that the whole week. Because all the heavenly worlds, those are just preparation. And the main thing, even though man was created last, but he arose in God's mind first. Dine, ba'olam haba, it says in the world to come, after people die, so it says, if you were righteous, so the tzaddikim, they sit, that the holy righteous people, they sit, and it says, and they have crowns on their heads, and they have tremendous, but this is really only secondary. Like it says, Re'isas Acharai. Like God said to Moses, when you go up on Mount Sinai, you're only going to see my backside. Hatainug, the pleasure, Shamasiga Adam, that a person gets b'avodaso, that he can get in serving God, ubichinas acharayim. Going to heaven, I'm going to say something that's not nice, but I'm going to say it anyway. Going to heaven is something like going to the bathroom. Now, what happens when you go to the bathroom? So it says you go to the bathroom, it's a pleasurable thing. You go to the bathroom, and waste products come out. Well, the fact of the matter is heaven, compared to the essence of God, is like waste products. It's like the backside of God. That's what God said in Mount Sinai. As soon as the Jewish people sinned, so Moses said, please, God, I want to find a way to find forgiveness for the Jewish people. So God said, okay, come up on Mount Sinai. I'll stand in this cleft of the rock, but you're not going to see my face. You're only going to see my backside. Upanai eno, but my face, eno befshara, you can't grasp. Ki lo yareni adam b'chai, because a person can't see me and remain alive. And that's the same thing what it is in heaven. Hu rak b'chinas ziv, it's just like a ray of godliness alone. Lochin yafesh sha'achas, therefore it's better one moment in this world, shu maisa atzma, that this is the deed itself, without any pleasure, without any understanding, than all of the life of the world to come. Shesov masa, that the end deed, the machshava tachila, is in the beginning, the first. Okay, this is a little bit difficult idea to comprehend, because what's the Rebbe saying over here? You want to do what Hashem wants. You have to know you're not going to understand it. A little bit you can understand. You want to get rewards and things. Okay, that you can understand, but you're missing the point. It's almost like saying that, like a doctor, let's say, and that's really true about everything. Let's say, for instance, a doctor. Let's take a simple example. A genuine doctor, he's supposed to get tremendous pleasure out of healing people. He also gets paid. If he's doing it for the money, so it could be he'll be rich, but he's missing the real point. And it could be he's a good doctor. It could be there's a better doctor than the other doctor. Could be, because he's like a mechanic. He's like an auto mechanic. He's fixing the car. And even an auto mechanic, what should really give him pleasure is that he's fixing up a car. The car didn't work, and now it works. Right? And he also gets paid. Getting paid is also good. And it's understandable it's a condition. If he doesn't get paid, it doesn't work. But what really gives him pleasure, and there's a lot of people that really do get pleasure, are taking an old car and just fixing it up, right? Or a doctor that gets pleasure from healing people, or a lawyer that gets pleasure from, justice, and or a politician that really gets pleasure out of helping people. He really wants to help everybody. That's his great pleasure. He's willing to lose everything. The spiritual, in a way, is the most important, but it can only be expressed in the physical, when a person does something physical. If the doctor just sits at home and reads books, right, so he's not going to get the same pleasure as from healing people, or the mechanic from actually fixing up. So it says, the pleasure that you get in heaven, that's what you receive, right? That's what you receive. That's the pleasure itself, but it's nothing like the actual deed, the actual healing someone, the pleasure that you get from healing someone, and the pleasure that you, right? That's secondary to the actual deed itself, actually giving a person life. What is life? The doctor doesn't understand what life is. The lawyer doesn't understand what is justice. He understands how it's expressed in the world. Right? Order, what is order? Was harmony. It's an amazing thing. Why is it that if you fix up a car, it works? He doesn't understand that, but what he does understand is that he's partaking of this amazing thing, which is called health, or justice, or harmony, or How does he do that? By the physical deed that he does. The same thing is when a Jew does Torah and the commandments in this world, so there's tremendous pleasure waiting for him, but the pleasure, that's like the backside, that's like extras, that's like the money that he gets from doing his job. Therefore, it's better to do in this physical world, you can be connected to these eternal principles, or in the case of Judaism, to God himself, who's the source of all these principles. We're only from deed. That's the whole thing of the Mishnah and the Braita, we said. The Mishnah, this is the klal, this is the general principle. Like you have to have 4 tzitzit, that when it says in the Torah, you have to put tzitzis on your garment. What is tzitzis? So it's the Mishnah explains a little bit what it is in general, and also a sukkah, it has to be a certain height. We can find the reason for this. Like it says, why did it says on the tzitzit there has to be one strand of blue. It says, why does it have to win one strand of blue? Because that's what God wants. But there's also other reasons. It says, you look at this strand of blue. Nowadays they don't have it. Some people claim they do. In the Chabad, most people say not. But anyway, those people who say they do, they've got what to rely on. But in any case, there's a strand of blue. It says the blue is similar to the sea is similar to the sky is similar to the upper throne. A sukkah, there's also a reason why it can't be too high, because you have to know up until 20 amas of what is 30 feet high, that's the Mishnah. It says in general, but the Braita, these are details to explain the Mishnah, but call it diktukim with all the details. Upratim, like sukkahs, ganbach, rakvash. There's a law in sukkah that says that the sukkah doesn't have to be built necessarily for the sake of the holiday. You can have a sukkah which was of what is it? Of I forget. Anyway, these are 8 different types of sukkah that if they're built not for the name of sukkah, that they're kosher. What is it? I forget again. Anyway, a sukkah that's built for women, just to this, for animals. It's built for what is it? What is it? The guard of the place. The guard of there's all these 4 different things. I forgot what the 4 are. You look on it. Anyway, is it ganuva? I don't think so. Not ganuva. All right, I'll look it up and see. Anyway, these are detailed sukkahs that are not built for the sake of a sukkah, but nevertheless they're kosher. She'ein tam l'davar, there's no reason why these things are kosher necessarily. It's not the nearer b'chush, we can see clearly that's above understanding and any reason. V'ze'ein b'chalal, this is not in the, and that's what it says. There's not in the generality principle there's not in the ela masha b'prat that everything that's found in the details, you can find it also in the general principle also. She'ein b'mishnah b'chalal, that in the Mishnah doesn't have anything more than the details. And it's the Braita, the details, the Gemara, Talmud brings out all the details of the Mishnah. The reason that it wasn't revealed, the reason in the Mishnah, who yoter gavoa, because it's higher. Kitamya mitzvahs, because the reasons of the mitzvahs you can't reveal. Okay, so the lower that it comes down into the world, the higher it is in its source. In the future, latid lavo, im yirtz Hashem, if God may it come soon, with God's will, Yidgala will be revealed all of the reasons for the commandments, because we'll feel God. We'll feel godliness. We'll understand things that we never understood before. Our minds will be different. Our interest will be not in money and things like that. It'll be in God. Now we can't get interested in God because we don't understand anything. That's what it says. That Rabbi Shimon, the Rishit Simon, it says Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he used to learn reasons for all the sentences in the Torah. The Dorish Shema shenemar, that what it says in the sentence, a reason for something, lo zehu ichud, that's not the real reason. Rak sheyesh tam b'zeh, there's a higher reason, which is higher than any logic. Just 1 second. I want to, give me a second. I have to look this up. I knew it for sure. There you go. Sukkot. Excuse me 1 minute. Excuse me. Here it is. Okay. All right, ready? It's a sukkah. Oh, Gunva, Goyim. The Gimel is Goyim. A sukkah that was built by a non-Jew, that was built for women. It wasn't built for the holiday. Nevertheless, these are all kosher. That's what it is. Gunbak Rakwash. If it's built for a non-Jew built it, a woman built it, animals, I got that part. A kutim are this type of semi-Jew sort of. Also a sukkah that was for shepherds, for workers in the field, for the temporary booths on the way, the guards of the field. Okay, I got some of them right. In any case, all of these are what's the reason for them? It doesn't say, because the idea is that the details come down into this world to give the details of the Torah, that the details of the Torah, the lower that it comes down, in a way, the less understandable that it is. And Nimsa, so it comes out that the mitzvahs, the commandments that we don't understand the reason, are really higher. Umasha Mesig, that which we do understand, is only the backside. And not like the world thinks that the main thing is your heart, that you understand, you get excited. And now it's not to devaluate excitement and love and spirituality. You have to have those things, but they're nowhere near in the same category as the actual deed itself. And this is a thing which is unique to Judaism. Only Judaism has commandments. Other religions have their rituals, they have their heritage, they have their practices, they have their ceremonies, they have whatever, right? They're superstitious, whatever you want to call it. Judaism has actual commandments given by God to all of the Jewish people, actual commandments. And they're very, very detailed. The details of how the Holy Temple had to be built, the details of what is mezuzah, the details of what is Shabbat, when does Shabbat come in, when does it go out, which day of the week is Shabbat, what does it mean not to light a fire in your, right, is turning on a light fire, right, or maybe not. Right? It says you shouldn't do any work on Shabbat. What is work? Huh? If you're in your house, you want to move around heavy furniture, 100% permissible. You can do it. If you're outside and you want to pick up a twig from the ground, you can't do it. Right? Or you want to carry a twig. You pick up a twig, walk, whatever it is, the 5 feet or something like that, 6 feet, forbidden. You did a big sin. But take a twig out of your house. Oh, they lift up a little twig, held it in your hand, a little needle, take it out of your house, and from your house into the street, a big sin. Who said that? That's a sin. God said. Why in the world would that be a sin? What could possibly be bad? Because it's not understandable. This is God's will. That's what God wants. A lot of people will say, listen, you know what? It's exactly the opposite. Obviously, this is a thing that the rabbis made up. Because if the rabbis wouldn't have made it up, there would have been some reason behind it or something, right? But they made it up just to keep everybody in line so that you'll never understand anything and you'll just be like a bunch of robots and so. So here the Rebbe is saying, no, these laws come directly from God. And the reason that we're doing it like robots is because the actual deed is above understanding. It comes from God. But on the other hand, you have to try to understand God. That's what we learned the other time, love and fear. The more that you understand that God is creating us And God's creating the whole world, and God is enlivening us, and God is giving us everything. So we're tremendously grateful to God, and we realize we don't understand what's going on. But we can repay God by doing his commandments. We're talking about the Jews. The non-Jews have 7 Noahide commandments, 7 Noahide commandments. They're not exactly the same. Like I said before, those 7 Noahide commandments are only the prohibitions. 6 of them are prohibitions. But there's also, they say, a lot, 30 positive. I wrote a whole essay about it. If anybody's interested, you can. In any case, Shalokamo Sovim, not like the world thinks that the main thing is getting pleasure and getting excited and having the religious, gnostic feelings and real revelations and things like that. The Enokan, it's not so. That's not the truth. Ela Ikra, the main thing is the deed. Beli Tainu, even without pleasure. But your heart, your emotions, that's only just a helper. It's like we said before, wings. Because the main thing is the lowest. Behine Mishnah, the Mishnah is called the city. And the Breita is called the field. The Lashon bar, that's what Breita is, bar, it's outside. Chutz, it's outside of the city. The Chorah, at first glance, the city is the main thing. That's where people, remember that's what we're saying, that Isaac Yitzchak went out to pray in the field. Achnira, but it seems, hu nira, mi hu mechayotam. The main thing is the people in the city, right? The fact of the matter is, oh yeah, where do the people in the city, where do they get bread from? Where do they get other food from? Right? They don't grow bread in the cities. Bread does not grow in the grocery store. The field, which is outside of the city, that's where they bring all the tavua, all of the produce. Kachu, a Breita, also the same thing, the Breita, the Talmud. This enlivens the Mishnah. And Mavo'er then explains the law more in detail. How to do it. Ki Tanaim Mavli Olam. It says that those people who wrote the Talmud, those people who wrote just the Mishnah, it says they destroy the world. Why? Because it says if you only just go according to what the Tanaim said, the Mishnah, here when he talks about the Breita, he's talking about more like the Amoraim. It says the Tanaim, usually the Breita and the Mishnah are like the same thing. They're just things that were left out. But here when he refers to Breita, he's referring to like the Amoraim, what it says in the Talmud, things like that. Because it says that person who just learns from the Mishnah itself, from the basic first explanations, oral explanations, he destroys the world. That they show laws from the Mishnah, and that's not enough. You have to get down more to the details. That's what it means that Yitzchak went out to pray in the field. Suach means to speak, like the Rebbe, the Sichas of the Rebbe. Hulashan dibur v'sicha. What does it mean to speak? When a person speaks, he comes out of himself. Lashan sicha lamata milashan, like it says v'sach rom, coming down. Coming down into the world. V'kein also kasher yifrosh asicha lischoach. Also it says he yifrosh hasocheach lischoach. You have to look that up, but it means coming down, coming out. And Yitzchak, therefore, his main thing was to go into the siach, to come down, b'sadeh, in the field that's outside of the city. In the field that's outside. When did he go? He went lifnot erev. That's what it says in the Torah, that Yitzchak, that he was the one who actively brought Abraham's message into the world. He went out into the field. The field is going out, and he went there to speak. Speaking is even going further down. And when did he go? It says lifnot erev, approaching the evening. Lifnot ha'erev v'choshech. In other words, approaching the evening and darkness. So here the Rebbe is telling us an amazing thing about the anatomy of the world, the anatomy of reality, physical world, spiritual world. That the world God created purposely in a way that he concealed himself. And we learned about that before. Remember? About the tzimtzum, all these veils, and further and further out. The last thing, the lowest thing that he created was man. Why is man the lowest? Because man can do sins. Animals don't do sins. And especially Jews. Jews can do more sins than non-Jews. Jews have all the Torah. They can, right? A Jew, like I said, carries a pin out of his house on Shabbat. It's a sin. A non-Jew can carry as many pins as he wants to out of his house, right? He can carry an elephant out of his house. There's no sin. So it says the whole thing is to come into the world. The world presents to us so many possibilities to go against God. That's the way God created the world. And the more that we defy these urges to go against, and the more that we do good, this transforms the darkness to light. Because darkness, what's the main thing in darkness? What's the main thing in dark? Have you ever been in a place that's totally dark? The only thing you feel is yourself. And they start setting in fear. Where am I? What's going to be? What's in the front of me? Maybe there's a hole. Maybe there's this, right? The more egotism that you are, the more you think about yourself, that's the more darkness that there is. And of course, people prey off this darkness. That's all these religions, right? You're going to die one day. You know where you are. You know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't know, right? So you better do good. You better not cry. You better not, right? I'm telling you why. Because if you don't, then you're going to go to hell and bad things are going to happen to you. So people are in darkness. They don't know what's going on. So the job of the Jewish people is supposed to light up the darkness, to let you know, listen, the world belongs to God. God is very good. Don't worry about the future. Just do good now. If you make a mistake, you can always correct it. Just say you're sorry, fix up whatever you do, and just go further, right? The world is not as dark and as evil and as small as you think it is, and egotistical as you think it is, right? That's what Yitzchak came in order to get rid of the darkness. How do you get rid of the darkness? By means of the Torah. The Torah shows that God cares about every detail. The Torah and Ishtalshalu comes down into this darkness. Like it says, "B'machashakim hoshivani," that God put me in darkness. This is a sentence I think from what is it from? Isn't it from Echa? I think so. From what's it called? How do you call it in English? It's called Lamentations. I'll have to look it up. Talmud. This is the Talmud Bavli. It says God said, "I am sitting in darkness." This is the Babylonian Talmud. The mata that came down below, even into claims of lies. Lama hukach, why did do this? Why did God do this? Come down into these laws of the Talmud. Why? Lifnot erev, to get rid of the darkness. Lifnot means toward, but it also means to remove. Remove the darkness, the evening and the darkness. Vayeor, and there should be light. Like it says, La'et erev yeor. Like it says, in the time of evening, there will be light. Commercial, like for instance, Misha wrote lifnot is a person that wants to carry something out of his house. You have to go kanei lifnoto in order to get rid of it. It doesn't remain inside of it. Right? You want to clean out your house, so you got to get a little bit dirty, but you don't remain dirty. You get rid of the dirt. Also, that's where the Torah came down. And it became clothed in the darkness. What does it mean, darkness? This person says, I found it. This person says, I found the garment. I'm lying. You're lying. Right? Who is the liar? Who could they? This is only in order to get rid of the darkness and to transform darkness to light. The Canaan also asks the Torah, when a person learns the Torah, to get rid of the darkness and the questions that conceal on your mind. What is to reveal what is the truth? To find what is the truth. Nowadays, it's a really big thing that got going on now, right? People are standing up and saying that a man can be a woman can be a man, a horse can be a dog can be everything goes. Who says no? Who says no? How can you say, if I feel that I'm a giraffe, right? So who could tell me I'm not a giraffe? So what do you mean? Here's pictures of giraffes. That's what giraffes used to be. But now I am a giraffe. That's what I am. Prove me wrong. I'm making a new definition. No, maybe it could be. Is there any absolute definition of a giraffe? No, this is up to now. People called giraffes things that had long necks. I'm changing it. Who says I can't change it? The same way that they made it up, I'm making it up. Right? What's a man? What's a woman? Right? Everything is up for grabs. Comes along the Torah and says, no, the Torah came into darkness, and it says, this is what's right and this is what's wrong. This is what's good and this is what's bad. This is what's light and this is what's darkness. It's absolute. You don't like it, that's why it came into the world, to tell you to do things that you don't like. If everybody does what they like, that makes darkness. On the other hand, the Torah comes down in order to change this whole feeling of what we like. We should enjoy doing what's true. But if we don't enjoy it, that doesn't remove its veracity. So that's what it means the Torah comes into the world to say what the truth is and reveal God's upper will. That's what it means that Yitzchak went out in the field to speak. In order to get rid of, to remove the darkness, the evening and the darkness, and to fix it. This is by means of Yitzchak. What's the thing of Yitzchak? Yitzchak is by means of what's called pachad v'yirat Hashem, a fear of God. What does it mean, fear? Fear of doing the wrong thing. Not because God's going to punish me, because God is so incredibly good that I'm afraid of doing anything that's wrong. Huh? Kamaimar, like it says, im ein yira ein chachma. If there's no fear, there's no wisdom. If you're not genuinely, how do you say, afraid of lies and of falseness, then you got something bad. Here you got all these Nazis and all these communists in the time where they say, what's his name, that Mao Zedong, that he killed like 1 million people. I don't know, maybe not 1 million, maybe only 500,000, maybe that 500,000 is like Stalin killed them. They took these people on, they shot them, and then the Nazis killed people, shot them. They didn't have any sort of regrets or any sort of feeling, maybe I'm doing the wrong thing. No. What? Exactly the opposite. The victory of the will over what? Over conscience. No conscience, no fear, no shame. Huh? No shame. That used to be sort of a saying. I remember when I was learning in university. No shame. You do it, you know. Is that true? So you have to be afraid of doing what's wrong. I mean, we have the potential to do something wrong. Don't pull that trigger. You should be afraid that killing a person is wrong. I don't understand what's wrong about it. I mean, you know, it's like brushing your teeth or something. Once you finish, it's finished. That's it. What's the problem? It's just because the Torah comes and tells us that what you think is not right. You should be afraid of doing what's wrong. That's called healthy fear of God. Like normal people are afraid to drive on the wrong side of the street. You ever drive a car? You ever drive a car on a there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of people that drive on the right side of the street. And then there's hundred thousands of people that drive on the left side of the street, right? And they don't go over the line. Why don't they go over the line? What's the problem? You know how easy it is just to turn the thing. Why? Because they're afraid. You're scared. I see there's big stickers on cars. No fear. Why is it that everybody's afraid? Because that's called a healthy fear. That's a good thing, right? They don't want to hurt themselves. They don't want to. Try it one time. What's the big problem? Why try one time? Why always have to drive on the proper side of the street? One time, that's insane. Well, the fact of the matter is it's even more insane to go against what God wants. Why? Not that even you're going to get hurt. You're going to do it. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. You should be afraid of doing what is wrong. So people can say, who says there's such a thing as wrong? Maybe there is no such thing. You made that up. You made the whole Torah up. You made the whole Torah up. That was the thing of Christianity. Comes along a guy and says, these rabbis made up all these laws. They're not really real. You don't have any laws anymore, right? Who says you have to have laws and things, don't kill, don't steal? Maybe you take a couple of them, right? A couple of laws. Don't kill me. Don't kill, fellow Christians, don't kill. Or maybe don't kill, if you're a Protestant, don't kill Protestants. If you're a Catholic, don't kill Catholics, right? No, the Torah says you're not supposed to kill, means you're not supposed to kill. Then how can there be a death penalty in the Torah? Good, you have to read. It comes into details. You're not allowed to protect yourself. Details comes to the truth. That's what it means. A person that says, if I only have Torah, then he doesn't even have the Torah. If a person says, listen, the Torah is the truth, all I have is the Torah. That's all I'm learning, Torah, and my whole life is Torah, leave me alone. So it says, if you do that, you don't even have the Torah. Why? You're remaining in darkness. Because the purpose of the Torah is to come out into the field, to bring it into the world. The truth, it says, there's another type of darkness. There's a darkness which is that God is unfathomable. He's not understandable. God made darkness his hiding place. And even though the darkness, Mikomakom, who's Sitro, it is God's hiding place. But that's what it means, Lifnot Erev, Achoshech Lifnei Erev. That's what it means. The darkness means that we reveal godliness, that he's in the darkness, reveal this, there'll be light. Lieben Hilchasa, by means of refining and clarifying the laws and how they apply to day-to-day life, and even to learn laws that aren't applicable now, right? There's all these laws of the red cow and the Ben Sor of Amora, things, the wayward son and things like that. It says there never will be and there never would. Just to learn the law itself, to bring it into the law, to the world, that brings blessing in the world. That's the blessing of the Torah. So that's what we explained yesterday about this idea of making blessings to reveal God like he is right in front of us. Baruch Atah, second person. That's done by the Torah and bringing the Torah, applying the Torah in all of its details in the world. Now let's learn the Davar Malchut. Let's start this here.